Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to be working on a large reel that Captain Tom sent in. He fishes the Great Lakes trolling, and this one is a very large and somewhat unique reel. This is a Penn 895 line counting reel that is a digital line counter. And it seems to work okay. He sent in 13 reels, about I don't know, 10 of them or so are these types of reels in various sizes. And since it's pretty unique and I haven't seen it before, or I haven't done a video on one before, I've seen it before, we're going to go ahead and do this reel. Now, a couple of things that are interesting with it. It's got the digital line counter. It also has this, which is an anti-reverse override. It's in anti-reverse mode, and then if you flip that switch, you can notice you can backpedal the reel to fight a fish manually. Flip that switch, and you're in fighting mode again. All right, we're going to take this reel apart, kind of show you how it's made, service the reel so that Captain Tom knows how it's serviced. Maybe he can do it himself if he likes. And, just overall get an education on a very unique and unusual fishing reel. Well, he sent the handles in separately, so I didn't go chase a handle down to put on to take off. So we're just going to get started by removing the pieces that are here. And this is a good place to tell you to take pictures because, well, it's a unique reel. You probably haven't seen one before. And if you get stumped along the way, you want to make sure you have a way to get yourself back on track. So we took that star adjuster off. There was a bearing or a shim washer there, and then there's a big bearing here after that. There's 4 screws here that are holding the side plate on, so let's go ahead and remove those. And this one's got an interesting way that it releases the yoke and the pinion gear. It's got a swing gate as opposed to an up and down jack and eccentric. So we'll show you that when we get underneath this. At least that's what I remember of these reels. It has an unusual kind of a swing gate kind of a thing. And that's important to note when it comes time to put the reel back together again. All right, we're going to just about get there. This is a graphite case. It's a 3-ball bearing reel. We see one of them right here. The other 2 should be one on each side of the spool. And as I took those out, I wanted to make sure all of those screws are the same size. If they weren't the same size, that's where you need to remember which one that was longer, shorter, wider, thinner, whatever it is, different thread patterns came from, so that you can put them back together again. I put my parts into a parts tray. I've been doing that for quite some time now. It's how I learned to do this. And well, if you are getting ready to do this, make sure that you have a strategy for what you're going to do with the parts when you remove them. All right, these 2 are the bridge screws, so they're holding the side plate and the bridge together. These are different from the ones that we just took out of the side plate, so you want to keep them separate. And again, I'll put them on my table. You got to make sure they're both the same size. Should be, logically, but you never know. Sometimes they change for whatever reason. Now, these do have a different thread pattern than the other 2 if you did combine them together. But if you haven't, that's okay too. All right, here's the plate. You can see it's already separated. The springs are pushing it back up. And we're going to remove that to show you the inside look here. This is your eccentric. That's going to drive that swing gate. This is your little spring that's going to balance your turn. You can see. And it's kind of an unusual pattern. And then we have our anti-reverse override is down here on the side. So when it's time to reinstall this, we want to make sure that, well, we've got it lined up properly so that we can do that. And also you want to take a picture here just in case one of those springs falls out while you're cleaning or what have you. I'm using a penetrating oil to do the cleaning. You notice there's just a little bit of debris here that I can't get with that cotton swab, so I'm just going to go in with a micro driver. You can see how I can just kind of scrape it off with that. That's old dried grease. So that could have an effect at some point in having that release perform a little erratically. Okay, that side plate is fine. Let's turn our attention to this big old side plate that I think this setup is pretty much going to be the same for all three reels. It's just that something's got a bigger diameter to it as the reel gets bigger. Here's the two springs that were pushing out the side plate when we took it off, so you want to go in and take care of those, put those in a safe place. Then we'll take a look at the main gear assembly. We have our bearing, the other shim washer. Remember we took one off the top, that one's the bottom. Now the bearings were doing fine, so I'm just going to oil them. They are shielded, the oil will seep into it. Put that into my parts tray. I'm going to put those other two washers back to back there so that I remember the sequence of them. Then we have two tension washers. They're bowed, they're not flat. These face each other on the rims. So one goes up, one goes down. Looks like we have three. And the third one was going down. And that just gives you some flexibility on the star adjuster itself. Then we come to our main gear. I'm going to hold on the pinion gear now and see if I can't just remove the sleeve. We have a very thick cap washer. And then we have the rest of this assembly here. We'll get to that in just a moment. This is our anti-reverse dog. This is our click ratchet. This is our pinion gear and yoke. You can see it's kind of an S shape. Take a picture again. And here's our swing. So what happens when you go to spool release, it's going to swing this way. You can see how it pushes it out. And then it's going to swing back to let it in. Out, in, free spool, engage the spool, free spool, engage the spool. Kind of a fun little thing, but very different than the way it's usually done. All right, we're going to remove that. Should be able to lift this up and out. Now on the dog, you have the option. The dog is held in. You have the option to take that out, but this reel is clean. You don't need to do that here. But take pictures again. Spring is attached bottom post to here. Dog. If there was a bearing under this one, you would go ahead and remove that, but there's no bearing. You can put a little bit of oil under there where it meets the side plate. All right. Let's do the cleanup then. The cleanup, you want to clean the pieces and parts, you want to inspect the pieces and parts, and you want to re-lubricate them. So we're going to start kind of in reverse. We took the pinion off here. We're going to just wipe that off. If I can get away with wiping off a piece rather than using any kind of an abrasive cleaner, I want to make that my first choice. And if something more is needed, I'll come back and do that. Again, same thing here. I'm using a hard bristle brush, which is comparable to a toothbrush. And if I need to, you can move to a brass brush or a wire brush. Check all of the teeth. Looks like there might be something stuck here. Get that out of the way. I don't know what that was. Okay, clean that up. We can put some grease on that. Only use fishing reel grease. I'm using Penn precision reel grease. I'll show you the container in a moment. And since this is getting used in the charter business, you do want to make sure that you have ample grease in there, because it's going to come under a lot more stretch than the normal occasional fishing. Notice on this that one side has a slight ramp on it. You can see that. That's going to face inward to that rotating sleeve. We want to put some grease onto the shoulders of this. I think it's impossible to install that one incorrectly. It is possible to install this one incorrectly, and the one with the slot goes down. Before I get there, I want to just make sure we clean this side up. This is your lever with your ramps. Again, we can put a little bit of grease onto the back side of this. You don't have to put a lot. And just place that into the case, just like that. Let's bring our little assembly over. I think I learned from experience on this, if I put the case in the free spool mode, it does seem to work a little bit easier on reinstall. Let's take a look at your drag washers here. These appear to be the HT100 drag washers. You want to clean them up. You want to make sure that they're not torn or in some other way compromised. There's a little bit of dirt on here, so you can use that same brush or a wire brush just to pull through on that. There's a difference between old grease being caked on there and the drag washer being worn. In this case, it's just the old grease is caked on. Since he's had grease on these, we'll put a little bit of grease on here. This is Cal's Universal Dry Grease. When you put it on, I use a glove as a tool to keep it off my hands for the most part. And you want to wipe off any excess. You don't want it caked on. All right. Put that there. I should have probably gone to this first. I'm going to do the same thing with your main gear that we did with the pinion gear. Pull through, check the teeth, make sure all those valleys in there are clean of the debris. And while I'm doing this, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you do like to see how fishing reels are serviced, learn a little bit about their histories, and well, become a good reel repair person yourself by gaining the skills you may need in some of the reels that maybe you're not familiar with. Okay, we've checked all of this. It all checks out. Remove that grease back for a moment. And I did say I was going to show you the container of that Penn precision reel grease, so we'll do that right after we get this greased up. Now on these, you don't need to get the grease in every tooth. The pinion gear is a different diameter than your main gear, and because of that, it will spread throughout it. This is your Penn precision reel grease. I'm using that because it's a fishing reel grease, not because it's Penn's. Most reel manufacturers will offer you a fine grease to take care of your reels with, so I don't really, it doesn't matter much to me as long as it's a fishing reel grease. I don't care if it's Okuma's or Shimano's or Penn's or whatever. I do care that it is a fishing reel grease. So we took the first of those drag washers, we greased it up, and then we followed it by what's called the keyed washer. That keyed washer has a rectangular center, and it has a round exterior that fits into the cavity. The second washer, after we've greased that, and your middle washer is what's known as an eared washer. Has a circular center and two tabs. The tabs go into the slots in the main gear, just like that. We have one more washer that we need to do. Again, I'm wiping off the old grease. If I see it clogged, I'm using that brush. This one has a little bit of a clog to it. So we'll get that old grease off of there. And that clogs because when you go to tighten down your drag washers, it's pretty much acting as a vise. It's clamping down on it, and well, it's pressing in some of that excess grease right into the washer. All right, now we have a very thick washer, which is the top washer. So again, clean it off. You want to get the old dirt and debris out of the way. Clean it off, bring it in. And that is the inside. And if there's any reason why I wear a glove, I guess it's evident there. Okay, that is that set. Now when we go with this one, this is the stud right here, the silver one, that needs to mesh into the goalpost here. And I find, for whatever reason, that it seems to be easier when we are in that free spool position to load this in. But having said that, it'll probably make me a liar at this time. All right, I'm going to take our case and merge it, and I'm going to look visually. This might be hard to see on camera. I'm going to look visually to make sure that the stud here aligns with the goalposts and gets inside there. When you hear that snap, spin it. Make sure that you have free spool. Put it in here and you should see your arbor turn. Okay, so we have that set properly. Now we want to go back and reassemble this side of the case. First up is the 2 bridge screws. They have the springs on them. That's the ones that we put the yoke over the posts of. You want to do that just so that you don't get those springs caught up in the internal workings, maybe doing something a little bit crazy and next thing you know, sort of thing happens, right? Okay, let's get those 2 in, then we can put the side plate screws in. As we noticed, the 2 in the center here are different. Then we have the 4 on the outside. When I put the 4 on the outside, I like to do an X pattern. So we'll do 1 up top. Come back down to the other side. I guess I can let off on that now. I was using my hands to grip the thing and act as a vise, but I think we have enough screws in there that the side plate is holding. Sometimes the screws get a little tight or hard to put in, and I get asked frequently, can you use the mechanical screwdriver? And the answer is you can, but do not tighten it down all the way. I'm a fellow that kind of likes to work with my hands, so I prefer the driver, so I also can feel things as they're going in that you might not be able to feel with a mechanical screwdriver. But if you have a weak hand or arthritis or something like that, go ahead and use the mechanical, but leave it short and just tighten down the last little bit with your hand. So what do I mean by short? I mean this, about a turn or 2 outside of being tight. That should help you. All right, so we've got that in. Let's go put the balance of this on. We saw that there were 3 of these tension washers that have a bevel in them. The first one was facing down when we removed it. Then we put the cup facing up. Then the cup facing down. And again, go to your pictures if you've forgotten. We have our bottom bearing shield washer. We have the bearing, which we oiled. We have the top washer. And then we have our adjuster. Now, by all means, make sure you take your time setting this adjuster because it can cross strip, and if it does cross strip, it's going to cause you some problems later. Okay, we're good with that. Let's just take a quick spin here, make sure that everything is all right. We have the flip, wonderful. We have the spin, great. Now we want to turn our attention to the pawl. Make sure that the pawl is clean and in good condition. Now, Tom did send me a note that says that he's got intermittent kind of giddy up in the smaller reels, which means that the pawl is either very dirty or it's broken. And either way, it can't escape being cleaned and inspected when you do this work. So here's the first thing I would expect to see. I would expect to see dirt on the shoulders of the pawl here, and you can see it's there. And what happens is that causes the pawl to ride erratically in the worm gear tracks. So clean that off. And then while you have that outside, take a moment. I'm going to spray down the worm gear. I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to hold it and spin the reel. That will bring out all of the dirt that's on that worm gear. Now there was one side I couldn't grab because and you can see we've got it again as a thing. Now if it doesn't look like that, if it's not that clean, just keep repeating the process and you will get to a point where you're good. If you don't, remove it and do what we did with the main gear. Take a brush to it, and that happens when these things have sat for a while and sometimes you get old grease. When I put that pawl in, the next thing I do is take my finger and press down on and turn the star adjuster. That will pull the pawl in, and you should have an operating pawl now. You don't want to jam the pawl in if it's not sitting in the track. That's only going to cause an issue later. You'll break a tooth or something, bend it, and then, well, it'll operate erratically. Okay, we're going to tighten this down. And we're in good condition now. Okay, bring it down, spin, bring it back up. We do want to remove the spool because there should be 2 bearings on the spool. Kind of been paying attention. It says 3 ball bearings. We've only seen 1. So let's come over to the other side here. Just like that. Now, if I remember the last time I did one of these, you have a little drain plug right here. Just pay attention to it when you take that side plate off. Sometimes it bounces out and you kind of scratch your head and wonder where it is. I'm going to take these off. I need to ask Tom. I don't know the reel. I've worked on one of them. I assume that we've got some kind of a battery inside of here that's... You can remove that top plate and get that battery and replace it, but I don't know. Oh, maybe here. It kind of looks like maybe that's a battery door there. Something's got to power it, right? Solar? That'd be wonderful if they came up with a reel that had the solar power there. All right, take the side plate off. You want to check here again. You want to make sure that everything is okay. We got a bearing there, so that's 2 bearings. Let's remove the spool. There's our 3rd bearing. Okay. So I oil bearings. I don't grease them. If you really wanted to hot rod this reel, you could go get ceramic bearings. That would be an interesting approach there. But I just oil them. A little bit of grease onto that. Oh, Chef's got a little bit of old grease on there. Let's get rid of that. And just a light coating of grease onto the shaft. We can put that back in. And this is the only way you can access the spool is from the non-gear side. This one's got some grease on the plastic idler gear. You don't need grease on plastic. Self-lubricating. Well, again, if you're enjoying the video, if you're still with me, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to the channel, please use the notification button. That'll let you know when I'm posting. And, well, you can see if that's a video you would like to watch. Today we're doing a trolling reel used in the Great Lakes. It can be used in the ocean. Rather unique one. So you'll get some exposure to some reels that maybe you're not familiar with. And you'll also get some tips and techniques like this, when in fact I haven't worked on one before, but seem to be managing my way through there. Alright, well, this is a metal idler gear. A lot of times folks ask me, why don't they make the idler gears out of metal? A lot of times you'll see shattered idler gears, or gears missing teeth. And the answer is you need a fail-safe. And you need a weak link in a level wind system. If you don't have that weak link, expensive parts will break. So idler gears, the plastic ones, are typically only a few dollars, but a worm gear or drive, it's a lot more. Well, here we go. We just said normally I break that off or drop it off. Guess I was up for knowing that this time. I did knock it out, but I was aware that it goes there. All right, oil that back bearing. Here's your plastic gears. You don't. You just want to make sure all those plastic gears teeth are in good stead. And since that is metal, and we are going on metal with the drive gear for your worm, Put a little bit of grease onto the worm. And a little bit. You don't need a lot on the idler gear. I use an artist brush. An artist brush tends to just do a nice job with the reach, and it doesn't shed hairs. Looks like we got something shed there. Okay, well, this is a little bit more here. There's something on this metal drive here. Again, you want to get rid of all the old dirt and grease because it'll only come back later and become problematic if it traps something that's abrasive like sand or micro salts. If it traps them in the teeth, then it's going to start grinding away. These two gears are aluminum. Okay, we can take our piece here now. This top level is held in by 2 screws if you need to remove that, and a side plate screw here. You don't need to remove that as part of the service, and quite honestly I wouldn't know how to service it anyway if it was broken. I think that's probably one of those pieces and parts that the only way to service that is to replace it. Alright, struggling here, but we will get this, I'm sure. My issue is probably getting that spool in. That's exactly what that issue is. Again, just like we did on the other side, right now I suspect I don't have the teeth of the worm gear meshed, so just spin the spool. There, and that'll pull it in. Make sure you have that nice tight seam. Don't go trying to drive that side plate screw in just for the sake of finishing the project. Find out you have mismatched teeth there, and if they didn't mesh properly, well, next thing you know, you're going to start breaking teeth. Not a good thing to do. Okay, well, as I mentioned, Tom sent along the handles in a separate bag. I haven't fished them out, but we'll show you how this thing works. We've done a lot here, so let's just review quickly what we've done. We've taken the reel completely apart. Every piece and part was inspected. It was cleaned. It was lubricated. It was reassembled, except for the handle. But again, the handle, when I do find those handles, if I have a moment, I guess we can put a drop of grease where the knob goes. But Tom dropped off 13 of these reels, sent them in the mail. You know, I get a lot of communication from a lot of folks asking me, do I service the reels, which of course I do. And one of them said that I have a Penn Senator 14-0, which is the very large Jaws-like trolling reel, and I thought that's what was in Tom's box because, well, it was just so heavy. Turns out it was a whole bunch of little Jaws reels that kind of make up for it. Okay, I'm just going to put the handle nut back on now. Now he's given me a couple more of these, but he says some of those have issues with the line guide. So here's an example of why you want to do this by hand and you want to take your time. This one's being a little stubborn with going on square. And the last thing you really want to do with these is cross strip them. If you cross strip a reel, it's, well, what did we say, 99 to 2003. This reel's at least 20 years old. Amazing that the electronics are still working on it, but you know, if you cross strip that, you may have trouble finding it. Okay, so we took it completely apart. We showed you the gear side and that unique swing gate for the spool, free spool. We showed you how to clean it all up, inspect all those pieces and parts, lubricate them, get them back together again, and showed you the side, why you want to take the side plate off to make sure that it's all cleaned up. And well, let's give it a test. Just we'll pretend that it has a handle. Obviously we can drive it by the star adjuster. Put it in the free spool, make sure that it spins nicely. It does. This is an automatic click back. You can bring it back manually, or you can turn your handle, trip it, so make sure that that trips. Make sure you have your anti-reverse. We're in the anti-reverse mode now. You can flip it this way and backspin. I prefer it in that mode. Look at how nice and easy it turns. And look at how well that line guide just travels around and around and around. Well, that's it. That's how the service, a rather unique Penn 895 line counter fishing reel. And, well, when we put the handle back on, we'll do a little bit more of cleanup. I'm going to use some rod reel cleaner and just take care of all that grease that was on my glove side hand. We'll just kind of put that in here to clean that up. And, well, we'll get back to doing another one of his reels. But I wanted to take a moment to show you this one. It's kind of unique, kind of unusual, kind of fun to work on. So if you have one of these, you now know how to service it. If you don't have one of these and have never heard about it before, now you know, you've heard about it. And, well, you can even carry on a conversation about how it's made because you've seen that. And, well, impress your friends. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I want to thank you, the viewers, for watching. I want to, again, encourage you to subscribe, encourage you to ask questions if you have any questions about this reel. And, well, I want to wish you a pleasant day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.